and Branches and No BS, a podcast from the center of town, which, beautifully enough, is located in the center of town, 907 Charles Street in historic downtown Fredericksburg, Virginia. And the host of this wonderful podcast, Susie Woolham.
Good evening. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, and we have all the smells and all the oils, and it is Essential Oil 101.
It is Essential Oil 101. We are breaking things down, going into some pretty basic information today, giving people just a little taste, a little lagniappe of essential oils, if you will.
Now, this is a huge hot topic. It's one of those things everybody's talking about. It's one of those things of what can I use it for? There are books, there are just everything on essential oils. There's so much to it and important to be educated.
It is a huge hot topic right now. And unfortunately, I think Kurt Vonnegut would have a field day right now with me telling you that you shouldn't listen to information that you find on the internet about essential oils when I, in fact, am coming to you on the internet to tell you about essential oils.
Isn't that funny?
I know. He would really love that. He's probably rolling over a couple times, but God bless you, Mr. Rosewater. So it is a hot topic. And the problem with that is that there's so much information that is out there that we would classify as misinformation, a lot of it that's really dangerous. And of course, we have here in the shop our mannequin, Misinformation, who always has a handy little tip on things that you shouldn't believe that you may see somewhere else. Our goal here is to always educate people whether they buy from us or not.
I think, the first thing people come in with is, what do I use this for? And can I use this for XYZ ailment that I have going on, this pain that I have? We've heard talks about it being good for even anxiety attacks and panic attacks and things like that.
Well, right now, you'd be hard-pressed to find anything that didn't say essential oils were good for everything from a hangnail to curing cancer. And while they are good for a lot of different situations and conditions and just for making life a lot happier because it smells better, there are a lot of things that you have to take into account before you start using essential oils. One of the things that I hear a lot about is that essential oils are all natural, so they're completely safe, that they are the lifeblood of the plant, that the plant couldn't survive without the essential oil. And that's just not true. Essential oils are considered a non-essential, which is sort of funny if you think about it, a non-essential part of a plant. They do have their purpose in a plant, but they, again, are not a thing. It's not essential oil as a thing in a plant. It's a group of constituents that work together and chemicals that work together that create a certain type of a reaction. So depending on what you're looking to do, if you're looking to be uplifted, if you're looking to relax, if you're looking to use it in massage, everything has to be taken into consideration. And the fact that they are all natural, there are a lot of natural poisons out there that you're not going to take straight because they'll kill you. Water is 100% natural. You can't get much more natural than water. And if you drink too much water at one time, I'm pretty sure you're going to end up in a hospital. So you have to look at things from a much more broad and sometimes really, really boring scientific perspective.
But it's important because I think one of the big questions that a lot of people have, what exactly is an essential oil? Is the same thing in the base of every single one? Because I see all of these different flavors and scents and whatnot. And so what's the base? What's it made of? What's going on?
And I love that little dance that you did that went along with that. That was really fabulous. Thank you. And what are essential oils? That is so important. And that's where people need to start. So number one, essential oils are hydrophobic, which means that in fact, not now, not next week, not next year, no matter how much you shake them or do a dance around them or pray to them or sit them in the sun, at no time will essential oils ever mix with water. Essential oils are not, in fact, oils. They are constituents that come together that have a more oil-like body than they do a water-like body. So they are lipophilic. They love fats. They love fats. Put them in any type of oil to use topically and they're going to be great. Coconut oil happens to be my favorite because it gives you so many of your omegas that you really need. Hemp oil is another of my favorites. But never, 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 not now, not ever, won't mix with water.
That's a no. Water's a no.
Water is a no.
No. Big no sign there. Okay, fine. So where do we get all of the different types of essential oils?
Essential oils come from a lot of different places. They come from different parts of the plants. They can come from the root. They can come from the aerial part. In some cases, they come from flowers or branches. In other cases, they come from grasses. Certain essential oils come from a plant when it is damaged. Myrrh, for instance, comes from what we call myrrh tears. We like to use myrrh as an essential oil, as a little side note, for people that are going through grief, because the way that myrrh is harvested and these little resin-like tears that it forms, we like to say that myrrh has already cried for you, so it helps to overcome grief.
Wow. That's powerful. I love that.
But it can come from the leaves or the stems. Many plants in particular may elicit more than one essential oil, which is why I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But it's why it's so important to understand the genus and species and understand your Latin name for an essential oil so that you know exactly what you're getting when you buy one.
Now, there's also a big talk about, how we can use the essential oils as far as can we ingest them topically? And I'm sitting here as we're talking, oddly enough, with my microphone standing on an essential oil book, I believe. These books, it can be very overwhelming, all of the information.
Well, that book that you speak of, I call that a little light reading.
A little lunch read.
A little lunch read for me. Again, I think what's important to understand here, and my opinion on this and my education on this is, I've been doing this for over 26 years now, essential oils, just essential oils. And I've worked with some of the most wonderful people in our business. I've been blessed to call them friend. And it's the kind of relationship where if I have a question, I know that I can contact them and say, this came up today and it's not something I've ever heard of. What do you think about it? So I'm very lucky in that aspect where most people are not. Most people are getting their advice from a salesperson because there just aren't that many trained aromatherapists that are bioavailable, if you will, to the general public. And the information that they're sometimes getting is based on selling a product. I would rather not sell a product to a person than to sell them something that's going to hurt them. Mm-hmm. So you just opened the lid to Pandora's box in talking about how they can be used. That is such a hot button issue because there are a number of situations that people may find themselves in where they're receiving information, shall we say, on the use of essential oil that may not actually be factual or proven or even safe. So when it comes to essential oils and using them, the most important thing that people need to understand is that essential oils should never be applied to the body undiluted. I realize that this goes against a lot of what you may have read. However, my experience tells me that somebody who perhaps has used lavender oil for 15 years on occasion because they have trouble sleeping at night, suddenly one night decides to put it onto their body instead of on their pillow, and they have a massive allergic reaction and end up in an emergency room. This is something that we want to avoid. When you're utilizing something that's a natural plant extract, it's important to realize that your body is always changing as well as that plant. Just because you didn't react to the batch that was harvested last spring, it doesn't mean that you won't react to the batch that's harvested in the fall. This is not a one-time thing. We don't have, it's not like a shampoo or a steak that every time you eat it, you're fine, or maybe you get a little bit of an upset stomach. Essential oils change seasonally. They change with every harvest. They change with every year. They change daily with the amount of rain or insects or everything that comes to them. Their chemical constituents will change. The plant material changes each time, and each batch of essential oil may be a little bit different. So it's always best to err on the side of caution and use them diluted. Generally speaking, as an adult, no more than 6 to 8 drops of essential oil to an ounce of carrier oil for an overall body use is perfectly safe. Always use them diluted. As an adult, like I said, overall general body use, it's really best to do 6 to 8 drops. That's about a 1% dilution. If you figure there's about 600 drops to an ounce, give or take, 6 to 8 drops is about a 1% dilution. It's good for an overall body if you're doing a full body treatment, a lotion, a massage, something like that. As you go toward a more localized area, you can certainly increase the dilution, but you still need to dilute. I tell everybody it doesn't matter to me what you dilute them in. You're welcome to buy a carrier oil. Sweet almond is wonderful. Grapeseed is one of my favorite. Hemp, coconut oil. But frankly, if somebody's just getting started, I ask them to look in their kitchen. What do you use to cook with? If you trust it in your cooking, you can trust it to use it as a carrier for your essential oils.
That makes sense. So when we buy it directly in the small bottle, is already diluted or it's not?
It is not. If you're buying it from me, and I will not speak for anyone else, if you are buying one of the essential oils that I have here, they are 100% pure essential oils. They have not been diluted. They do not have a carrier in them. I always list the genus and species and Latin name on the label, as well as the location where it was grown. It's very important to me to work with smaller family farms and smaller importers to get exactly what I want as far as an essential oil. That being said, there are companies out there that will tell you that you're getting a pure essential oil. And yes, in fact, it may be a pure essential oil that has been placed in a carrier, but it's still a pure essential oil. The essential oil in and of itself was pure when they put it into the carrier oil and bottled it. So you need to know who you're buying from. Buy from a good name. Don't buy from a discount store that you can't trace it from. Making sure that the genus and species are always on the label. I know that I say that a lot. Making sure that the Latin name is on the label is very important. And having a little bit of knowledge when you go in is important. One of the things that I notice is that I like to equate it to buying a car. You would not step out of your house onto a sidewalk and just say, today I'm buying an orange car, and just expect an orange car to show up. Or you wouldn't walk into a store and say, I want to buy an orange car, and allow the person to say to you, well, this is the best orange car on the planet. This is the orange car for you. People don't do that. People do research, they educate themselves, and they walk into a dealership of the vehicle of their choice and they say, I want a 2017 red Jeep 4x4 that does this and has this and has this and has this. They have their parameters. And they certainly don't allow the salesman to say, no. What you want is this. Understanding the genus and species of essential oil and understanding what an essential oil can do and what you want it for, it's just that important. Taking something like, for instance, citrus aurantium. So citrus aurantium, with its variety, can be neroli oil. It can be bitter orange. It can be orange leaf, more commonly known as petitgrain, or it could be orange flower or an orange flower absolute, which is not technically an essential oil. So if you go somewhere and you say, I want neroli, and the package says 100% pure neroli or pure neroli, and you turn it over and it says citrus aurantium oil in coconut, you need to know which one you're getting. So it's important to have a little bit of a knowledge before you go in somewhere and not let somebody sell you just an orange car.
So some of the products, the essential oil products, you will see available in the form of like roll-on. Are those already diluted?
Most of those are already diluted. And we will actually make blends for people here if they have an idea of what they're looking for. I need to know what you're using it for and what you're hoping to get out of it. But yes, we do, at that point, we will dilute it, and we will dilute it right in front of the customer, and we will ask them or client, we will ask them what base oil they're looking for. So if somebody's coming in looking for something for skincare, I'm probably going to lean them toward grapeseed oil, just because I know that grapeseed oil tends to be slightly astringent. So it's going to help with whatever skin problem they're having. If it's a gentleman and he's looking for something for a beard oil that wants to smell good, I'm going to lean him toward a castor oil, olive oil blend because it's going to be so great for nourishing the skin and the beard and keeping him from getting overly greasy. But we always dilute in front of the client. We never dilute any other time.
Yeah, I've watched you do this. It's pretty wild, actually. I like it. And then you're like, okay, try this. Take it home. You're not, the great thing, and you mentioned this earlier, about, people being tied to trying to sell you a product and trying to get it out the door and trying to make money off of this. Your starting focus is about educating people, and you'll tell them, here, take this. Mm-hmm. Take this, try it, see what you think, see how this sits with you. It'll actually change in a few minutes.
It does. They do. They change. It's important to understand that essential oils are not only are they hydrophobic and lipophilic, but they're what we call volatile. So once they're exposed to the air, they change. And anytime that you're creating a synergy, that you're combining two or more essential oils together, you have this essential oil and that essential oil, but they create their own energy when they're mixed together. And that sort of works together to, whether it's a top note or a base note, to hold it down or to lift it up. So it does change, and it will change throughout time. So it's important that people understand that how it smells in a bottle is not how it's going to smell in a room. It's not how it's going to smell on you.
That makes a lot of sense. What about diffusing? Because you're mentioning being in a room. I mean, that's another way a lot of people are using it, is putting it in a diffuser.
Absolutely. Diffusers are wonderful things to use in the home, and I am a big fan of them. I am not, however, a big fan of water diffusers. Oil and water, as we've mentioned, can't be in the same place at the same time. They just can't. Essential oils are more oil-like, and water is more, in fact, water-like. So when you put essential oils into a water diffuser, there's this, to break it down, this crazy fan that spins around, and it kind of blows across this, and it blows it up into another crazy fan that sends it out into the room. Well, now you have water molecules and essential oil molecules that are moving through the air at the same time. So science will tell you, if oil and water can't be in the same place at the same time, and you breathe both of these molecules in at once, only one of them can hit the tissue at a time. So if the water hits tissue, now it's effectively creating a barrier so that essential oil is now going to sit on top of it. If the essential oil hits the skin or this barrier, whatever it happened to be, a mucous membrane, skin, if the essential oil molecule hits first, then its spread prevents the water from coming in and out. So now you have water sitting in an area. For people that have any type of breathing difficulty, breathing in water vapor, we've all seen, especially living here in Virginia, we know what it's like in August. When it gets super humid outside, we tell everybody who has breathing difficulties not to go outside, right? Because it's hard for them to breathe. And yet we take them when we put them in a room with a diffuser that is pumping water in that they're breathing. So I recommend either a pad diffuser or a cold air diffuser. Cold air diffusers are magnificent. The only thing that they're introducing into the air is essential oil molecules and essential oils. And when using a diffuser, the other thing that I see a lot is that people will run them all night or all day and all night, or they run 6 of them in their house. My general rule is never to run a diffuser more than 30 minutes out of any hour, and that would be a 15 and 15. So if you run it for 15, off for 15, on for 15, off for 15. And if you're running it in a bedroom, you want to turn it on about a half an hour before you go to bed. Turn it off about 10 minutes before you go to bed. Allow everything to settle. There's no need to run it all night. There's no need to run it all day. The purpose of using this is to not only fragrance your environment, to provide an uplifting or calming or healthy area. Utilizing too much of a product is always a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Interesting enough that you're talking about some of the, there are only 2 types of extracts that should actually be given the label of essential oil.
From a purist standpoint, which again, I've been doing this for a long time, I got involved in essential oils back in the very late 80s. And from a purist standpoint, there are only 2 types of essential oil. There is a steam distilled essential oil in which the plant material is added to water. The essential oil is extracted, nothing is added, nothing is taken away. Or there's a cold pressed, which all of the citrus oils that we sell here are cold pressed. None of them are steam distilled. Once you steam distill a citrus oil, you're taking away a lot of those constituents that you're using it for in the first place. So I always warn all of my customers and clients that all of my citrus oils are cold pressed because that does make them phototoxic. That is a thing. But cold pressed essential oils come from just that. Imagine you're having lunch tomorrow and you take an orange and you go to peel it, and that beautiful mist that you see popping away from the orange peel, that actually is the orange essential oil. And that's exactly how it's extracted in a much simpler fashion. So that's important to understand how an oil is extracted. And the other thing is, not every plant makes an essential oil. There is a bird that makes an essential oil, but we don't harvest him. But not every plant makes an essential oil. And some plants don't make enough oil to be considered an essential oil. So jasmine, if you've ever seen jasmine, those beautiful little tiny flowers, it would take an awful lot of those flowers to make essential oil. So that's only made as an absolute. The same with St. John's wort. Those are only absolutes. They're never an essential oil.
So I have a couple of categories.
Uh-oh.
So when it comes to essential oils, they are good for ...
They're good for a lot of things, but they're not good for everything. And it really depends. And this is gonna sound like I'm just going over and over and over and over on the same thing, but it really depends on the person. They're good for tension. They're good for anxiety. They're good for muscle aches. They're good for in massage. They're good in foot baths. They're used in a lot of things. You never want to put essential oils undiluted into a bathtub, because after your feet, think about the first thing that hits that water. That's not a place you want essential oils. Trust me. Never in a mucous membrane. But depending on the person that's using them, there are a lot of good uses for essential oils. But there are mitigating factors that always have to be taken into effect. What's their lifestyle like? What type of medications are they on? Because there's a lot of essential oils that interact with certain medications, and we need to always be cognizant of that.
So the should not be ... includes what you said as far as should not be dropped directly into a bath, should not be applied neat to the skin. And this is something you mentioned earlier about make sure you're putting it with a carrier.
Absolutely. I've had people come in who have been told that they should put essential oils directly into their eye because it will help their vision. I've heard people say that they should put them in their mascara to help thicken their lashes. And this is just really, really dangerous information. Essential oil should never, ever, ever be applied to the body without being diluted. You just don't know what that person has been exposed to, what they're doing, what their life is like, that you could cause a reaction to them. And once you have a reaction to essential oils, which is different than a lot of other things, once your body has been sensitized to essential oils, that's pretty much it. You're going to have a sensitivity to that for the rest of your life. So if you've had a bad reaction to an essential oil, rather than using it again and see if it happens again, you should not only not use it, but you should probably look at all of the members of its family. For instance, casually, if you have a bad reaction to lavender oil, you should probably think about whether or not to use anybody in the marjoram, oregano, any of this family, because they're all the same sort of taxonomy class, and you may have a reaction to them, but you definitely don't want to use lavender anymore.
And on the should not list, you also have essential oils should not be ingested.
Essential oils should not be ingested. In the United States, the law is very clear that the only person who can at any time direct you to take something that is considered a medicine orally is a physician. Unless you are a physician and have been trained in the use of essential oils and how to use them appropriately, which thankfully we do have a few, you have no legal right to tell anyone to take essential oils internally. That being said, the most popular way of telling someone to take an essential oil, it seems to me, is telling them to put a few drops in their water and that it's perfectly safe for them to drink. And this is a 100% fallacy. I don't want to say it's a lie. That would be rude. But it is a complete fallacy. Essential oils and water do not mix. You cannot drink them. If you drink them, all you're doing is drinking an essential oil and then spreading it around a little more with the water. This can cause not only blisters in the mouth, esophageal damage, stomach damage, liver damage, long-term damage. And if someone happens to have an allergic reaction and has something like, let's say, apnea or swelling, I'm fairly certain you'd like to find that out on their arm, not in their esophagus.
True story. And the last thing on the should not list regarding age.
Kids, a lot of new information is on putting essential oils on your feet and on the feet of your children. When I hear people say this, I always ask them if they have bad feet, because I can't think of any other reason that you would put essential oils on your feet. But essential oils, when it comes to children, the rules are very, very clear. Anybody under the age of 6. I realize that's a lot lower than what most people have heard. Under the age of 6, you always want to dilute to a percentage of no more than 3 to maybe 4 drops to 1 ounce of carrier. And even that is going to be a fairly strong dose. Anybody under the age of, say, 3, and I typically don't recommend use for under age 3, but the industry standard, if there is one, is sort of at the 1 to 2 drops per ounce of carrier applied topically to a child. Never, ever, 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 ever apply essential oils in your child's ears or nose, or certainly not in their mouth. However, you could, at that dilution, apply a drop of that diluted blend to a cotton ball and place it in the outer ear if they're having some ear pain or if you're using it for something. But it's imperative to know that you've got to use a much greater dilution. Think about their beautiful little pink livers. Let's keep them happy and pink and clean and not yucky.
That makes sense. And as far as putting, a lot of people talk about putting the essential oil on the feet and that sort of thing.
I guess if you dilute it, that's fine. But I'm still sort of confused about that ideology.
Is that a quicker way to get?
No,
I think that's the the thing. Is you put it on your feet.
I've read a lot of things about that. I know that that's kind of a thing, if you will. So major flying quotes here. It's a thing. I think that if you're using essential oils for yourself or for a child to help them sleep, for instance, I think a better plan is to take a single drop of that essential oil that's diluted, put it on a cotton ball, and tuck the cotton ball in their pillow. Every time they roll over, they're going to kind of crush that cotton ball a little bit, and it's going to release just enough of that fragrance to help them relax, to help them do what they need to do. And we don't have to worry about, I don't know, why are we walking around with slippery, oily feet? It's not a good plan. The idea that it's somehow more easily absorbed that way, or that it's safer to absorb that way, it really is just, unfortunately, it's a sales pitch, and it really has no basis in any type of science.
On that note, we need a drink.
On that note, we do need a drink. And since we're talking about aromatherapy today, I went with something fun. I try to be clever every so often. Today, what we're doing is 4 roses. And 4 roses, get it, roses? Aromatherapy. Get that?
Yes.
So today's 4 roses actually is a single barrel, which is one of my all-time favorites. And the greatest thing about this single barrel is that it is hand-selected, like you would hand-select an essential oil. See this? Do you see how this is working together?
Coming full circle here.
It is all coming full circle. So today we're having 4 roses, single barrel, and we are loving it. It is a wonderful Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Make sure that you have it on your bar. Don't ever run out. It has a wonderful, long finish, not too peppery, and it'll make you super happy, just like using essential oil safely.